Alain, thank you so much for coming to our podcast.
Thanks
I
for
really
having me, man.
appreciate it. Thank you for coming. I want to say that right away. For the audience who don't know, you are a quiet leader, and you have like a quiet leadership philosopher who specializes in the public sector. I want people to know you help people with that. You've been doing that for a while. When did you start doing that?
Dude, thank you, man. Well, firstly, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Listen, I just came out of my shell. About a year ago. I started posting on LinkedIn, but in public service, I'm in local government here in Ottawa, and I'm super passionate about leadership and myself being an introvert. I have a message to share with people, and that's what I've been doing for the last year. And I've been like focusing on coaching and building people's confidence.
Do you know like a statistic, like how many people are introvert versus extrovert? Those are the two, right? The two big ones, introvert, extrovert? Or is there like a third one I don't know about?
Yeah, well, it's interesting you say that. I'm not an expert in any of that stuff, but what I'll tell you is the general thought is basically like an even split, right? There's half people are introverted and the other half are extroverted. Recently, there's been talks of like ambivert. So it's someone that can be a bit of both, depending on the context. I'll be even honest with you. Some people, when I tell them I'm introverted, they don't believe me because I present in certain ways depending on the setting I'm in.
Well, it's because people that say that to you, they know you already. So they see I never said that, but I would be one of those people who know your extrovert side because I know you for a long time.
Yes.
I get someone who just met you, like, oh, that's an introvert person. But like, I know you already, like, out of your shell. What's like the pros or cons? Because you're an introvert, what benefit would that give you in the workspace? Like, what pros and cons would you think that it gives somebody who's an introvert?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like I'm thinking of, like, I'll tell you why I'm thinking this, but you tell me, like, when somebody says I'm this, I try to like think of, oh, well, I always think of I'm glass half full. So I'm thinking, well, that's beneficial because of this and this. So I want to know like what on your end. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah, well, I'll share a couple of things with you. One is a lot of people don't have maybe the awareness to recognize which one they are, right? Whether they're extroverted or introverted. That's number one. Number two, I'll give you my own description and feeling of what an introvert is and what it means to me. But I think it could vary based on the person. And really, that terminology is mostly used in the context. There's this framework, it's like a personality test. It's Myers-Briggs testing. A lot of people do that just to identify what kind
Myers-Briggs
test. It's like it's a personality test to let them kind of situate themselves and what kind of workers they are. But that's neither here nor there. Here's what it means to me.
Yeah, what it means to you. And benefits, pros and cons after that.
For sure.
Yeah.
When I think of an introvert, I wake up in the morning, my glass, man, is full. My energy, like my battery is full. So I've got a full glass of water.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning feeling fantastic. Every interaction is a sip of that water. So it's energy management. By the time I've interacted with maybe 10, 15 people, my glass is empty. So by the end of the day, I want to be alone. I'd rather text someone than call them, right? I'd rather spend time reading or watching something than interacting with someone for too long. So it's energy management to me. When I think of an extrovert, it's the opposite. They wake up in the morning, their glass is empty. And the more they interact with people, and maybe I see you smiling, so maybe it applies to you.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
You wake up in the morning and you need that interaction to kind of fill your cup. That's the difference to me. Like, I'm oversimplifying it, but that's what it means to me. And in terms of pros in business for an introvert, so someone who starts with a full cup and ends the day with an empty cup, when I think of like what it means in business is you have to pick your spots. You have to manage your energy and decide how you interact with people. But there's some misconceptions. I think some people think we're shy, or timid, or antisocial. Not necessarily. It's just that we prefer interacting in like small settings. So I might prefer one-on-one like this. If you send me to a big conference, you're like, Alain, go network. No way.
No way.
No way.
You're beside the like bar or the food bar or whatever.
I'm like at the back of the room, right? That's how I would describe it. But I mean, in terms of pros, we're amazing listeners. We're amazing conversationalists. I like to think we have really strong like emotional intelligence. We can kind of read people. We pay attention to some of the subtle things in conversation. And myself being a leader, in leadership kind of settings, we create space for others to contribute, right? Which is fantastic. And you talked about it when we were off camera. But like if you're in a meeting and you want everyone to contribute,
Yes.
you got to be able to manage your energy and manage how you come across.
Yes. The pro would be that you know what you're about to say before you say it. You think before. So I guess you are saying you can gas out with long conversations with a group of people. You'll feel it. It's more work, networking or whatever, versus someone who's extrovert. Like
Thrives off that.
He thrives. He needs more. He needs more. I get it. I'm trying to think. The pro is, yeah, you listen more. 2 ears, one mouth. You listen more. What would be like a tip to, like, I don't know what age somebody would need to know this, but like let's say a kid who's starting and he's introvert versus extrovert. What would be like a tip that you can teach a kid to like have either a bigger cup of water, more gas, or not sip it down as much? Like what would be like the tip you would give someone who just figured it out and like a child, like someone that you would like maybe like your kid or something? What would be a tip that you'd be able to help them with or teach them, or a friend or something?
Yeah, great question. Let me go back to my own childhood.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was an introvert, right? In hindsight, I recognize moments where I was like, oh my God, I was depleted of energy, and that's how it manifested or showed itself. When I think of like my childhood, you remember we were in school together. I was like a class clown. I was a joker. I used to like play around, and I was a bit of an idiot at times, frankly.
It's high school. You have to have fun.
Yeah, I loved having fun.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I was always exhausted. I would go home, and all my friends would be like, Alain's always napping.
You're always napping. I remember this clearly. You always napped.
I was always tired.
It's the weirdest thing. You napped in high school.
I was exhausted.
You're always napping, yeah.
I was exhausted.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I recognize this because my introverted side was like, okay, you're doing a bit too much now. Uh-huh. That's one of the things I noticed. And there's,
I thought you just like napping.
No, I think it was that. Like it drained me. But in terms of business, if I could go back 10 years and talk to Alain or talk to anyone else that's introverted, the advice I would give you is you still have to network. You still have to put yourself out there. You still have to build relationships in order to be effective. But you have to pick your spots. Again, if you go to a big networking event, don't expect to, like maybe you will, but maybe you won't. Don't expect to play the room. Don't expect to be the star of the show. It's okay if you approach a person one-on-one, you exchange contact, and later on you send them a text, you chat with them one-on-one. In this virtual world, you can do that amazingly through Zoom and all these things. You just have to strategize on how you interact with people. But it doesn't preclude you from building an amazing network and amazing relationships. The main advice I would give, and like, of course, manage your energy well. Don't say yes to everything. Don't say yes to every outing ask, or, when you're tapped out, when you're feeling it, it's okay if you disconnect and unplug. And then the one last tip actually I'll give, and we talked about this off camera, and this came to me, I was getting coached by like an exec. She's a coach who like teaches executives. She's fantastic. And she's like, you got to be strategic about this. She's like, when you go into meetings, go and sit beside the extroverted person. I guarantee you will contribute. I guarantee you'll be more present, because that person, you're going to feed off that person's energy, but the conversation will always come towards you. Yeah.
Especially if you like that person. Like if that person is someone you like, you're even more comfortable because you already have a connection with that person. Yeah, it really helps. That person, whoever he or she is in that board meeting, you're friends with that person to start with. Yes. Like, I know exactly who I need to sit with. And the one tip you would say is choose your battles or choose your conversations that day. You still have to network. You still have to nourish relationships, but choose the person, the one person or two, like try to choose that week's like 3 people you're gonna, or have someone that you always can go back to and like have that conversation back and forth to like, I don't know, because you still have to build it like a muscle, right? I guess you're saying choose your battles or choose your conversations, pick your spots.
Yeah.
And then if you go in a boardroom as an adult or in a group project, choose an extrovert person as one of the people in the board.
As an ally. 500%. And like, I think that goes for life, right? Like, you need to be surrounded with people that aren't like you, right? Because they bring the best out of you and so on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you're in a boardroom, but in any kind of setting, it's good to be surrounded with like opposite kind of folks.
It's like a yin yang thing.
Yeah, pick your battle, and just around the picking the battle or picking your spots. Like I was saying earlier, you can do it like virtually. I have a method. I call it like 5-3-1, but you don't even have to stick to those numbers.
Yeah.
But like, if I want to, like, recently I've been on like this bend where I just reach out to a bunch of people. I'm trying to build a presence on LinkedIn and grow my network. So I'll pick like five interesting people. I reach out to them, make like conversation. We're amazing listeners, so we can just listen and, like put the focus on that person. There's actually a saying that's like, this thing is like, people find themselves the most interesting thing in the world. So they want to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
It's easy to have a conversation because you could just let them talk about themselves.
Yep.
But I guess where I was trying to go is...
That's a psychological thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way everyone... This is like a CIA training. So the way that people see the world is the way you see the world. Mm-hmm. So the way you see the world and the way I see the world is different. Like I see it as me, you see it as you. So the best thing to do when you're in a room or you're supposed to pretend you're them. And how I look like. Then naturally you're checking yourself. You understand what I mean?
Deep,
so there's like this CIA training about that. There's when you are having a conversation with someone you want information from,
mirror them,
but also pretend you're them to see yourself, and you're gonna start like making sure that you sound proper, like you sound properly to them, or you like if I was just looking away while we're having a conversation, that would throw you off. And if I see myself, why is this guy looking at what, you know what I mean? So there's some like psychological to it. So everyone sees the world as the way they see it, They feel the world the way they feel it too.
Through their own experience.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So there's like a thing. So there's people who train, I'm not saying I trained for this, but there's people who trained and like in the CIA about mirroring or like the viewing in the other person's eyes as a third person. It could be as a third person, but it's good if you're having one-on-one conversation, it's from that person's eyes. But as a third person, because then it's almost like an avatar. You're almost like, you can control yourself better that way. Like, oh, he wouldn't do that, he would do this, or he would sit this way, or whatever it is. So what you're saying is there's a psychological component to it. And you're right, if you just listen, people will tell you a lot
about themselves.
Yeah.
And as an introvert, like, that's amazing because you don't have to carry the conversation.
Yes.
And what I find too is like, at least for me, I don't know like if it's universal, but like trying to have like small talk, right? Talking about the weather. I suck at that. Like, honestly, I remember like entering the workplace and like going through several promotions and now sitting at certain tables and I was like, how the fuck do I have small talk here? How do I make small talk? I used to Google it. How do I make small talk? Seriously. Because I had no idea what to talk about.
Yeah.
First of all, I never checked the weather, right?
Yeah.
But
check the weather, but like I think like it's either sports or weather is what people like to talk about.
And then it was like, oh, don't talk about this, don't talk about that, don't talk about religion.
Yeah.
So
politics and religion, and what's the third one? There's a third one. They say don't talk about in business. History? Is that what it is? Yeah.
Okay.
History, politics, and religion. That's like the rule of thumb. I was like 20 years old. I was like training for sales. Never talk about that. And a lot of conversations go to that. A lot of people are like...
Just naturally.
Yeah. And you have to... I don't know. I guess for me, like I've always been somebody who gets along with everyone. So I never had that problem of like small talk. I don't watch sports, so I never had the sports thing. I don't know the weather. I don't know the weather. I always have to ask my wife before I leave the house if it's cold outside. Like I don't know any of that. But I also like people to start with. In general, I fall on the nice side, or like I like people. I guess it's not
like a task.
It's not a task for me to hear somebody, and everyone is kind of somewhat interesting. And I'm always half glass full guy, so I will. But that's bad. The bad side of that is that you're open for, like, you don't mistake liking people for trusting them. So you always have to be careful with that. So as an older person, I don't trust people right away, but I like people right. It's like I want to know more of this, but I don't trust people right away that I just meet. because in your older age you learn that quickly.
To be careful.
Yeah.
Cautious.
Because the way the world works is, what is in it for me? That's the way how the world goes around. Everybody in business or even public or private sector, everyone in the world works like this. Like, what is in it for me? When you're doing any transaction or any dealing, or it's what is it in it for me? So you have to remember that in every conversation you're doing, especially in business. If they call you out of the blue, there's what is it for me, and then vice versa, what is it for me? Everything, and it's good to always try to make things win-win. That's what. It's hard because some people are built the opposite. Very, very successful people have the I need to win more.
Like win-lose.
Yeah, more. Like they always, even at the last minute, something will change. You got to reread the documents because that will happen. They always say, like with if you ever do business with billionaires, expect the deal to change the last minute before you're about to sign. And you thinking like on a Friday, I'm tired, I got to like sign it. But no, go back and restart and reread the whole thing, and they just there's like a clause in there that can hurt you. It just
fucks you.
Yeah, you gotta you always have to be careful with that. Yeah, but I was like people, I guess. I never felt drained.
It's the extrovert.
Yeah, that's extrovert. Yeah.
You feed off that. Like you see, like I love people. I love people.
Yeah,
Same as you. I find them very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I like depth. And I can only take so much. And after a while, like when I say I can only take so much, dude, I've got a wife and 2 kids.
Yeah.
And
that changes everything.
That too.
That changes everything.
Does.
When it comes to energy, that's probably all of us. Because where a lot of guys are mostly happy, like I'm talking about for us, like guys, and there's a study, I forgot which philosopher said it. It was like one of those like Greek philosophers, maybe it was a Stoic, I don't know what it is, but where a man's happiest is when he's like hanging out with his boys.
Okay.
And when you have a family and kids, it takes away from that. So one of the most important thing is to like hang out with your boys, because every person has like 3 people to them. Or there's a Japanese saying that every person has like 3 people to them, and there's one that like the world sees, and then there's one that like only your true friends or like your family and friends see, and there's one that no one sees. There's a face that no one sees, only you yourself know. And it's good to be in that one that like your friends see. It's like a and there's
just like your true expression of
yourself. You could just like whatever
be your real self.
Historically, people who are out with their boys had a really good time, or out with their friends, they had a really good time. And I think it's the same thing for girls. I don't know, but I think when they're out with their friends, they act different or whatever it is. But so I think when you're having a family and kids, it takes away from that part for a lot of cases. So like it goes down to like a once a week outing with your friends, or card game, or so it
Catan.
Yeah. I could imagine like Catan is so fun. I think I like Catan, I like card games, I like hanging out with the boys. It's funny because let's talk about success. Even if you're successful like financially and you become a multi-millionaire, you still want to look forward to that weekend playing with the boys a Catan game that you can do when you have no money. That's how good it is to hang out with your friends or your family, kind of thing. So it's funny how and those are good times. And you become extrovert during, because I know you. You become extrovert. You become extrovert. Yeah.
I'm like in my element. Yeah. For me, it's I guess the crux of like what I'm looking for in interactions. I want quality, right? I want like deep conversation.
Yeah.
I want substance behind conversations. And like, don't get me wrong, like in my work, in my day-to-day work, I'm interacting with people all the time. Yeah. Right? So like as an introvert,
your day-to-day work is what, like 100 people you have that you can interact with?
Yeah, it's like there's hundreds of people, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm drained at the end of the day, and so now I've got to find a way to like manage that energy, and I still find energy for my family, and then of course for friends and so on and so forth. So I think for an introvert it's really about like trying to find a good routine to manage your energy so that you're not depleted all the time, and then finding those quality interactions, because like you don't want to waste that energy on useless interactions.
Yeah, because when the more mature, older you get, the more you can choose where you're going to deplete your energy with a glass of water. And the last thing you want to do is you come home and your kids want to play with you and you're like, I'm too tired to play with you. You kind of want to like tough it out, like
500%,
because they grow up fast. You only get the way our society is now, like kids go to daycare and whatever, you got to go to work, and so you only kind of see each other after school. You see each other and maybe there's an hour after dinner between going to bed and maybe an hour or two tops. So you want to play with your kids.
Yeah, on the best days when I work from home, maybe 2.5 hours with my kids.
It makes sense.
Because the rest of the time it's like, eventually they move out.
They go to college, move out. Yeah, it's true.
You barely spend any time.
They get married. Like, yeah, if you think about the way like life is, your kid at 18 will probably, like, I'm not saying your kid, but like kids at 18, like, go to school, and some people go out of town for school or out of city.
Yeah.
So they're gone, and you only see them on holidays. And after school, they're at school and they meet the love of their life. And then they meet at school and they're both in the same kind of education program, like lifestyle, whatever. And then they move in together. Then they get engaged and married, and you're like, what happened to my baby? And then they get kids, and you're like, that it's true.
Yeah, well,
then they have their own kids. Yeah.
Think about how often you see your parents.
A lot less than I used to.
Right?
Yeah. It's a lot less. And I think our generation we had Harry. Harry said this. Harry was on our podcast, and he said that our generation is the generation that's like getting buried by their parents because of overwork, overstressed. Our generation is a generation that works like 12-hour days for years, like dozen years, whatever, straight. And the stress level we put on ourselves to just, I don't know what it is. Right? I have no idea what it is. Compared to the generation before, where I guess money went a long way, or they didn't care about the extracurricular stuff, like the extra like activities for the kids or whatever. They just like hung out with you. Like, your weekend was with your parents hanging out, whatever it was. But now, like, the kids have gymnastics and karate.
The pace of life now.
Yeah, it's like so much. I guess like the stress of everything, and work is very stressful, and social media is stressful. You look at social media for like 30 minutes, your whole like, you have to like go detox. Like, what did I just see? And people say, "Oh, work from home is so good," but you can attest for this. When you work from home during the pandemic, how many hours more did you put? Because before, if you wanted to go from meeting to meeting, you had to walk to a meeting at least, or drive to a meeting, or whatever it was to a meeting. There was like a gap. Now it's like meetings are minute after or the same time, and you're literally like logging off early and logging back, and you're back to the next meeting. That
back to back.
In the past, this would be like a once a week thing. Now they're happening so much more often, and you know what I mean? So I think that everyone, even the work from home guys, got more dumped on them, or the people who work hard got more dumped on them. And our generation is the one that's
500%. And like, yeah, this post-pandemic newfound productivity. Yeah, like I remember pre-pandemic, you accounted for things like your travel between meeting rooms, and you could just walk over to somebody's desk and have a conversation. Whereas today you can't always do that. Those conversations turns into meetings. It turns into a 30-minute conversation, whereas it could have been a 5-minute conversation. The landscape has changed a lot, man. And yeah, people like now, if you want to have a lunch, like, you can just walk over to your kitchen rather than going to get something and like taking your steps and all of those things. So there's lots of cons, but I'll tell you this: it's the way of the world. We're evolving as a society. I think my personal opinion is we can really be on the wrong side of history if we don't accept the realities that like remote work is here to stay.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you this: if you look at like the average person, the average Canadian, what's the average salary? Like $50,000 a year, right? That average person, if they have an opportunity to work from home, and they have like an average family, so there's two incomes, right? They're making like $50,000 each. They stay in a home together, and hopefully they get to work from home. If they get to work from home, this idea of life-work balance that you're talking about, if they're intentional enough, they get to find it. Because one, they don't waste an hour in the morning in a commute, an hour in the evening in a commute. And over and above that, there's a cost to that. Like, if you're coming to the downtown core here in Ottawa, it's going to cost you some money to either take a bus or park or whatever it is, whatever mode of transportation you have. Even if you bike and you're a healthy person, you want to bike from wherever you are in the suburbs to here, it's going to cost you, right, that bike. And then over and above that, if you think about it, if you have caregiving responsibilities and you're a parent, think about all of the hustle and bustle that goes into that. It's all this extra stress that you're adding on a person now, when we've discovered that for the last 3-4 years, we've been able to work from home with no issue. I think the case to me is very clear. And if you notice the leaders today who are hell-bent on like returning people to an office, think about their experience, right? They are in their 50s or 60s. They make way more money than $50,000 a year. Coming downtown and parking is not a problem for them. They don't have young children or other kinds of similar responsibilities to take care of. For them, it's a frictionless experience. Coming to the office makes sense for them. But for a young family, for the average worker, and I think there was like some interesting data during the pandemic, and it was like the average person is saving around $6,000 to $8,000 a year by working from home.
On like fuel and parking or transportation, right?
And for a person that's making an average salary in Canada and is making $50,000 some dollars a year, $6,000 to $8,000 is a hell lot of money. And they've got a mortgage that's never been as high as it's been, if they have a mortgage, right? Mm-hmm. Cost of living is the worst it's ever been.
You might as well stay in the house the whole time, how high the mortgage is.
So it's almost like a slap in the face when you try and tell people. What I will say is, to your point, we need to reestablish some new norms for people that work from home, so that, one, they find that life-work balance, because we don't want them working 16-hour days. But over and above that, this idea of unity, teamwork, collaboration, that's gone, right? Like now people are all virtual. Sometimes they're off camera. We got to find a way for people to connect. There's other ways of doing that than forcing absolutely everyone downtown and everyone into an office. I think the call to action for leaders in 2024 is to modernize. And that's my idea of like leadership 2.0. So we got to be modern. We have to embrace new ideas. We have to get creative, because I can guarantee you, if we surveyed the workforce, not the executives and the CEOs and the people that make millions of dollars a year, the average person, if we asked them, would you prefer to work remotely, hybrid, or in person? The vast majority would answer remote or hybrid. And let me add a little caveat here. Obviously, not every job can be done remotely, right?
If the nurse has to go in.
Like let's recognize that as well.
Like a judge has to go inside.
Well, a judge could do it virtually too, right? During the pandemic, there were lots of trials that took place virtually. Oh. Absolutely. But you're right. Like there's like a large amount of roles that just a cop can't be working.
Yeah, a cop can't. Like virtual. Get out of the robber. Get out of there.
Yeah.
Out of the house.
But I would say, generally speaking, office workers, white collar workers, leaders need to modernize and think a little differently, right? Like it's not where you work, it's like what you do, right? They have to reinvent themselves.
Do you think there's room for more people to work? Because I'm like a person who I like to reward, but I also like productivity. So I would say, what if you had different tiers? Like you make everyone happy by doing this. Okay, so you say to people, it costs $6,000 to go into work. Who wants $6,000 more? We have an office for you, your old office. Sure. Then people say, you know what? I hate being at home with my wife or husband all day. Sure, I'll take. Some people don't want to be home all day, right? They go. Because some people like to be away from home so they can come back and tell them, hey, this is how my day was. Number two, if productivity is shit, then you're working at it. It's like almost like
an incentive.
If your productivity is bad, then you're coming into the office until your productivity goes up. And sure, you can have that option. And you get paid $6,000 more, whatever it is, right? To go in the office. Because the problem is, I don't mind either or. You want to work from the office, come from work from the office. You want to work from home. But to work from home, it's because everyone's aware that there's like softwares out there, or there's like things you go buy off Amazon that moves your mouse, and the guy's doing the minimum amount of emails. So we're all aware of this, It's not like a hidden thing. But we still want work done. I'm not saying I want you to work 16 hours. Work the way you would work if you're in the office. And I'm not saying at the office, they're going to be working hard. I know people work at the office, and they can chat for 4 hours or 6 hours and work for 2. So I'm not saying that the productivity will go up either. I'm just saying everyone can get what they want if they choose a certain, okay, you want to work from home? Sure. You want to work from the office? Sure. Okay. You get both. You can get paid more because it costs more, or you can get paid less or whatever, like not less, but like there's no like difference in pay because you're traveling, the travel pay or bus pass or parking. The thing is like the productivity is what I care more about. Because the last thing you want is like 50% of people, you would know, I would not know the productivity level if it went down or up. It seems like it's still at the right pace. But the thing that a lot of people don't see is the amount of businesses that close the downtown core. So downtown core, a lot of barbershops closed down, a lot of restaurants closed down. I think like Tim Hortons on Slater closed down. Like downtown, most expensive per square foot commercial spots have been closing down. And landlords are saying, how are you closing? Well, this building, when I first signed the lease, it was full of employees. So my whole income was the lunchtime that came downstairs or the people that came and wanted a haircut after, whatever it was. That's the part that's hurting. The macro, like the
macro level.
The macro level.
Yeah.
People miss the downtown people. Like there's businesses out there, there's taxi drivers, there's people who miss the remote workers who are going back. The parking meter guy, there's people who miss it so much. I'm not saying that we need them back just to put money in their pockets. I'm not saying that either, because the government's probably going to end up renting out those, like those buildings are worth more without employees in it. Like, just so we're aware, like they make more money if they convert those places to rentals, because of how expensive it is to rent an apartment now versus having an employee in there working, because the government can sell those buildings or rent. I would not suggest the government to rent them out, because that would be not the best landlord. Like I don't think they would be the best. You ever see like City Living? It's not great. So it would be like a business I would buy and it would turn into like a very high-end rental, because the rental market is needed. Like I think the government is trying to we're trying to become 100 million citizens in like 100 years or something. What was there's a number to it?
I didn't know that.
You didn't know, but like Canada's trying to grow our population from, I forgot the numbers, 50 million. We need space for people to live. And there's lots of empty spaces. I think there's enough for everyone to get what they want. The management of it all would be a nightmare. But I think if you want to work from home, work from home. If you want to go to the office, go to the office. And if people are not coming back, turn those places into rentals. Because I do think they're starting to. I saw like a building on Rideau that got turned into a rental, and the students were bleeding for housing, and they're all students living in there. It's like Rideau, and I think it's Rideau and that zone. There's like a BMO right in front of the LCBO, Rideau and St. Patrick. Is that what it's like?
Okay.
Yeah.
King Edward.
King Edward. Yeah. So there's a huge need for rentals, and so if they don't want to go back, make the decision. Like the government should make the decision. They're not come back, make them work from home, or not make them, like let them work from home, and turn these things into like not the city hall offices, but a lot of remote areas, turn them into rentals. Like I
agree. Like I think the companies and that are in downtown cores are struggling, right? Or like, small mom and pop shops, like restaurants and all of those things that benefited from office workers.
Cafeterias closed down everywhere. This building we were in, but cafeteria closed down.
For sure. And I feel horrible. But let me take it back just a bit, just around like this idea around remote work. Just this idea of like productivity.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you were like in school and there would be like one really loud child that would like be a shit disturber? Mm-hmm. And the teacher would tell him, quiet down. It was usually me. And
we all love that guy. So we're like, yeah, I remember.
It was like, quiet down. And then that kid wouldn't listen.
That was the kid who got up 3 times to go like Iggy's wall, like just sharpen the pencil.
Disturb the class. And then after a while, the teacher got fed up. I was like, okay, you don't want to listen? Everyone, we're staying quiet for the next 5 minutes. Turns off the light. Or like nobody's going to recess. Remember when that would happen?
Yeah, because
and then all the kids would be like, "I was perfectly fine here. It's Alain here, the shit disturber." Right? That's the idea of like, yes, there's some productivity issues, but the truth is, there are productivity issues
no matter
even
what
in the office, right?
No, even if you brought them in.
Even if you brought them in, and like, let's not penalize everyone for that 5 to 10% of people who need proper management, right? And then like, what's interesting is like, sometimes you'll hear executives say, we need to bring people back into the office because the culture. And like, you go into the office and it's like a sea of cubicles, right? Nobody talks to one another. They're all kind of like alone. It's like, yeah, you could have done that at home. And then the culture is like free pizza and free coffee for staff. Like, come on.
I go to my own
people
pizza.
people would much rather be home, walk over to their own kitchen, eat their own healthy
Slice
foods,
pizza, whatever,
take
salad.
a walk with their dog or with their kids or whatever it is, right? Yeah, I just think this idea around productivity, I hear you. And I think, yes, there's a small minority of people that need to be managed a little differently. But to penalize everyone else...
No, you don't penalize everyone. I was thinking like you penalize the non-productivity by bringing them in just for a little bit and say like, okay, your productivity, and they'll know what it's for. You tell them like, oh, your productivity is at like bare minimum. So you're on like this whole like watch thing. Oh, we'll pay your parking when you're driving here. I'm just saying the way it works, you can make everyone happy.
500%.
Yeah, I think you can you want to work from home? Congratulations, you work from home. We save money and time. That person starts at that time. He's never late, or he or she is never late. They clock in, boom, the work is done. They want to have pizza parties. They can go to a restaurant and meet each other once a week.
That's it.
Go ahead. Like the
That's
restaurant
it.
can host them.
Yep.
There's a bunch of pizza places they can go to.
You can get creative.
You can get creative. I just think that you could put that effort into something else. Like maybe like, I know this is kind of like, oh, let's all meet to like, like there's like a lot of workplaces.
Retreats.
You could all do that. Let's all meet to the park and play Frisbee for like a Friday afternoon before, just to get the group going. Let's have a meeting at, I don't know, this hotel. We'll host us all. We'll all meet there, have a breakfast. Because I think you could rent like the rooms of a lot of hotels just by buying the breakfast, right?
Yeah, conference room.
And you can have like 100 people there and like everyone.
Or, I mean, some buildings are doing it here, and I know across the world it's happening. Some buildings in the downtown core kind of creating spaces like offices for rent. So you can like rent for the day or rent a room for the day.
Yeah.
Like those kinds of things. I guess generally speaking, when they're nice, man. They're beautiful, right? And I guess what I'm trying to say, like just generally speaking around the remote work piece is like, you can't get in the way of progress, man. You cannot. It's kind of like if 100 years ago,
it's like stopping Google. You can't stop Google.
People were like, I'm not going to drive a car. I'm gonna stay on my horse and buggy.
They tried,
right? And make an argument for like, no, we need to keep our horses. Or like 30 years ago, somebody would said, I'm not using emails. Okay, don't use email, but everyone else is going to use email.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we are in society, where remote work or hybrid work, some form of the two, it's here to stay. And no matter how much we moan about, it's just not going to like change the reality. This is where we are.
The pandemic helped us move it forward, like fast forward a lot.
It accelerated it.
It's because a lot of people don't notice, but like lawyers had to meet you before the pandemic in Ontario. They had to meet you face to face to close your deal. Now there's certain programs you can sign into, you can log into, show ID. I don't know if it's FaceTime, not FaceTime. It's usually Microsoft products. So Microsoft has MS Teams, or it has the other one there. There's Teams, Zoom. No, not Zoom. What's the first one? Like they had it. Skype. Yeah, you have to Skype or whatever, and you can upload your documents. It sped up a lot of stuff.
The world is evolving.
Yeah, the world's evolving, and you could. And for businesses too, you can hire remote. Problem in the past for a lot of businesses to get a good quality person, it was really hard. You had to like, you had to get talent. Local talent was so hard. You had to get them in the office, get them, there's a lot of like incentives. You got to get them right or space. Now you want to get the top person. Where are you? Oh, I live in San Francisco. No problem. Yeah, whatever. I'm in Montreal. I'll take you. No problem. Like Amazon is sending all your equipment, and you have your space in your phone, everything, and just that person's working for you. And there's softwares now, like if people are advanced, you can just track what they're doing all the time. You can track like how many phone calls they did, how many emails they did, how many deals are closed, how many deals are received, whatever, like in any business. And if you don't hop on that train, if you don't study someone that's doing that, any business, especially the government's kind of behind on it because they have policies they have to follow first. Yep. You can't just use Skype because we use Teams. Privacy policy. A business can pivot. Like if you tell me, Danny, A, B, and C would help your business better, then I can just do A, B, C the next day, like or even that night. But when it comes to the government, there's policy has to go up the chain, and then from the chain, someone has to sign off. So by the time it comes back, there's a new technology, and then you got to go back up the chain. And it's kind of like the problem when it comes to bureaucracy and the government. It's hard to pivot, but I think everyone is at least on the same page where what you said, like the world's changing the way we work. And that 60-year-old or 50-year-old person that wants everyone in the office, he's retiring in a year or two. And that whole generation that wants the old ways, just like you said, the horse and buggy. the Ford is coming. He's making cars for cheaper than your horse. So we're all getting cars. Everyone's going to have to get on board.
Everyone's going to have to get in that Ford, man.
Yeah. It's coming. It's coming. The back to the office, that's what I was trying to, that's why I know I should not have said that, but that's why I got to the buildings. If you're not going to bring them back,
do something.
Do something with them, because that is probably billions and billions of dollars of real estate. You guys want to fix the housing problem? You guys can do it within like 6 months or a year.
You have this beautiful opportunity to solve like a huge societal issue, which is homelessness, by repurposing other businesses. Like
South Africa did it.
How is that not a great opportunity? And especially with like the cost of living today, we know people without homes are increasing by the numbers. There's lots of like big issues that could be solved through that. So it's a matter of like being creative.
You go to downtown Ottawa, it's like Windsor, Ontario right now. You go downtown, you're like, whoa, it's bad. And South Africa did that. Like, I don't know when they did it. It's a while back, but they did that, where they took the government buildings that were empty, or offices that were empty, and converted them to homes, residential. And now there's no homeless population in the streets. And our downtown core has that issue right now. You could talk to any paramedic. They're there all the time, or any police. They're there all the time saving somebody from an overdose or something. And it's nuts, because the amount of money we have going everywhere, but
solving the problem.
I have a conspiracy theory with that.
Tell me more.
You want to hear it? This is the crazy side of Danny. I think we don't solve it. The government doesn't solve it because it's like not profitable to solve it. And it reminds us that's where you can end up. So imagine you house them all in a nice, beautiful condo that's worth $3,000 a month. What purpose would anybody want to go to work? Right? So if you put if you put all the homeless people in like a nice hotel in the like, I don't know, like the Hilton or something, right? And they have room service and they get food and then they get a nice. So the government would say, well, like, who's going to go to work? Who's going to go to work, pay their taxes, and be like a good person in society when our bare minimum is we house them in a beautiful location, like a condo or whatever, right? So I think there is like a little bit of they want everyone to be, there's people who are productive, like the middle class, who will do everything. The people who get affected when costs go up or when things get expensive is the middle class. The ultra rich people don't care. They don't care that the home doubled. It's better for them because they have assets. They make more. They don't care that steak costs $75 for 3 steaks at like Costco, like which is supposed to be an affordable place, right? The poor person doesn't get affected either because they are at the bottom.
Subsidized.
They're subsidized, but they're at the bottom. They're like they're there. The middle class who has to go to work and pay the taxes, he or she gets affected the whole way. So if things go expensive, they get affected. If things go cheaper, they get affected. So it's like, so they're the ones that can go this way or this way. And if you told them, hey, it's okay, don't worry, we got places downtown for you, a nice condo you can have. If you sign these papers and now you're at the bottom. I don't know. That's my conspiracy theory. It's almost like just reminding you, like, yo, you mess up, you go to Trois. You remember we were kids? You go to Trois. You go to. Yeah, what was that called? What was it called? Trois. What was Trois stand for?
I forget. Like responsabilité. I was there all the time. Responsabilité.
Respect.
Yeah, respect and some bullshit. But I hear you. And like, we don't have to go too far down the rabbit hole. My theory is it's not even a conspiracy. It's a big fucking problem to solve. It's a big issue, right? Because like when you've got somebody that's without a home, if you think about it, chances are there are potentially like childhood trauma that they're dealing with.
Oh yeah.
There's
alcohol,
addiction issues.
Yeah, there's addiction
issues, and
no one to go to.
Probably some mental health issues. And so to solve it, just even if we built all the most beautiful homes to house people, I don't know if we'd solve the issue. There would still end up being people on the streets, and like a lot of people that you see without homes are eligible for certain things. Sometimes they may not take advantage of them for whatever reasons or barriers, or
they're ex-military or like
that's right.
They're native. They get like certain programs that can help them right away. It's a mental thing. So a lot of them don't even know
what's available,
how to open up a bank account, how to get a cell phone, how to like things that you know every day how to do. That they can't comprehend that. They can't they don't understand. I can go to a bank and like or get an ID. Like some of them don't even have IDs to go and do these things. So they're just used to walking into a line somewhere and whatever it is. That's a whole sad thing, but I'm just saying, well, I think we can fix it with money. I think money can fix it. How much? I don't know.
Yeah, and where?
Where? Yeah. Who's gonna take?
Is it mental health? Is it drug? Like, yeah.
Who's gonna take it by the reins? Who's gonna like actually do it?
How patient are we as a society? Because like, I think to solve some of those big issues, it could take decades, right? Like, you know, there's actually lots of like theories or literature today that supports that. A lot of people with like drug addiction, they're trying to a coping mechanism. Right? It's a coping mechanism. They've got this, you know, these childhood like issues that they're trying to run away from, right? And so like the issue isn't the drug, it's the issue that they're trying to run away from. And so how do you solve that? Right? Maybe like sexual abuse, or, you know, they saw it like parents in very difficult situations. We don't have to go too far down. I know we're kind of going towards
so like, yeah, it's not a drug issue, but I think I think Portugal took care of that. I think Portugal had some drug issues, and they
legalized it.
They force everyone to go into rehab. I don't know.
I think what Portugal did is they were one of the first countries to decriminalize drugs. And so now if you would get caught with hard drugs, you don't get arrested and put in the system. They try and support you to, you know, battle that addiction. And, you know, I'm not an expert by any means, but I think that's probably better than imprisoning someone that has serious mental health issues and like a difficult childhood. Prison is not going to solve their problems, right? So
schizophrenia, maybe.
Yeah, like prison's not going to solve their issue.
Because some people give up. Some people just give up, like on their family that has issues or whatever. So like those guys who had like mental health issues, they're
alone, man.
They're alone.
Yeah, alone.
That's why it's important to have family. You know, like family is important.
Family, friends, yeah.
Family and friends is very important to like help each other out, because the person who carries you when you're down is usually your friends and family, you know? Statistically, I think like I saw something, this was many years ago, so I don't know what it is now, but mathematically, there was like a huge percentage of Canadians, like it was like a huge percentage, like maybe 10% of people or maybe even 30% of people are like 3 paychecks, so 6 weeks away from being homeless.
Dude,
like that was the number.
500%.
You know what I mean? Like that's 6 weeks. So that's 6 weeks. So 3 paychecks. I think it was 3 paychecks. This was a long time ago. That statistic.
I think it's like, from what I recall, it's probably even higher. But if you think about it, like with the cost of living right now, where if you have a mortgage and your rate went up, like your
property tax, mortgage, insurance,
everything's
car payments,
everything's gone up. And,
credit cards.
You know, inflation was at the highest it had ever been historically. It's finally coming down a little, quite a bit actually. Like with the cost of living today, almost everyone, almost the entire population,
the middle class
population, if they go 2 months without getting income, I guarantee you the vast majority of people will be on that street as well.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so people have to like humble themselves in a way when you see something like that, because everyone was like, I forgot the numbers, but this was like something I read, and this was like 10 years ago. 6 weeks away, so 3 paychecks away, and they would be homeless. Like they would not be able to afford their rent or mortgage. They would not be able to afford, and they would be. I think that's why there was a ban or block on the landlords from evicting a lot of people during the pandemic. There was like a 10-month thing or something. I forgot what it was, but it took people like a while. And I think in Toronto, most condos are owned by landlords.
Okay.
I don't know what the numbers were, but it was investors that would buy a condo and have it rent out.
Okay.
That's a lot of the condos in Toronto were like that. So people were paying rent, and in Toronto, like it's very expensive. It's a very expensive place to live. So if somebody doesn't pay you for 10 months, it's like 30 grand, right? Like it's like $3,000 a month for a condo, let's say a 2-bedroom or something. It's like Toronto's very expensive so it got up. So that
isn't it like the most expensive or second most expensive?
I think them in BC, Vancouver. Okay. Toronto feels weird when you go there. It feels like money is there's just a lot of money there. So it seems kind of like fake the way the world is there. So you go there, everybody is having $500 dinners every weekend, I guess. I don't know what it is, but there's just, the population is also, I think, the third largest. It just became the third largest city without Mexico in North America for population. So like it just passed Chicago. So it's like, I think it's like New York,
LA.
Yeah. And Toronto is like,
Toronto's there.
Yeah. just past Chicago.
Okay.
North America, I think like Mexico beats them all. I think Mexico City is like the largest, but people are still moving into Toronto. Toronto's still like the hub. It's a financial and tech hub right now for Canada. There's a lot of money there, and I guess a lot of people are keeping up with the Jones. When that happens, and you get people who keeps up with the Jones, and Ottawa's more like a small town who acts like a big town.
It's growing though, man. It's growing fast.
What's our population here now?
I think it's over a mil or around.
Yeah. Anybody that you ever helped become a better leader who's an introvert?
I can't think of like one particular example, but one of like my core beliefs as a leader is you have to dedicate the vast majority of your time to your people. Like, I'm a big believer in like a one-on-one culture. The people that work with me know that like one-on-one every week, at least of an hour with the people I work with. So there's 7 or 8 people right now that work with me directly, and I meet with them every week. And it's been like that for a really long time, like for almost 10 years now. So there's so many people that I've worked with directly were potential introverts or even extroverts that I've worked really hard to help build their confidence.
Because there's actually pros to becoming a kind of introvert. So like you say, extrovert people, you help them become more introvert?
No, not necessarily. Like I've helped them, I've tried to help them discover their own talent, believe in themselves, but also like, I mean, when I'm working with an introvert, like, it's a very binary way of looking at things. So I try not to look at it too much that way. I know I speak a lot about it online, and I tout myself as the quiet leader, but I try not to categorize people like that too much because it's hard to tell. They also have to like self-identify and determine themselves, how they see themselves. But I think generally speaking, overall, I've worked with both extroverts and introverts to try and help them build their confidence. Because one of the things, and this is a like realization that I've been able to vocalize and articulate even more recently. Coming from where we come from, coming to the workplace, sometimes being intimidated by people with big fancy titles. They wear like nice suits, nice
CFO, CEOs, founder.
It's easy to get intimidated. It's easy to feel like you don't belong. But I'll tell you what, spend 5 minutes with an executive and it'll dispel all the fucking crazy ideas you have about them. We put them on these pedestals. I spent a lot of time working with myself, but also others to go, we can fucking run circles around these people.
Yeah.
We belong at the table too. You have fantastic ideas. You just need a bit of courage. You just need a bit of confidence in yourself, self-confidence. And
they're looked at like a father figure for some reason at one point. When you're starting out in a business or something with the high titles, and you're like, after a while, you're like, yeah, let's run circles.
And it's not like to be arrogant. It's not to be like, oh, you're incompetent and I am. But it's just the realization that absolutely everyone is improvising. Everyone is figuring it out on the fly. Everyone Googles shit.
Of course.
Everyone is...
Information age.
Yeah, everyone is trying to figure it out. So, like, I've worked with a lot of introverts and extroverts and everyone in between to build that confidence to kind of grow. That's like, I get a lot from that.
Do you get like a set of like, let's say, 3 questions you ask? Let's say I just to let the viewers know, you help people, you have a program, people can sign up, they can check you out on LinkedIn. It's Alain Hyppolite. So they just look you up on LinkedIn and they can sign up on your LinkedIn. So what would be like a couple questions that you would ask someone when they first sign up? What would be like a couple questions, like 2-3 questions you would ask, just to like start knowing them, or do you have something like that?
Well, I don't have a script, but I'll tell you.
Not a script, but like what's a good thing, like just so the viewers know.
Good question. Number 1 question is, how's your confidence?
How's your confidence?
How's your confidence?
Like a 1 to 10, or you just say how's your confidence?
Yeah, how's your confidence, and let them speak. And I really value, like, I think my strength is what sets me apart is like I really like to listen, and I listen intently. So I just ask them, how's your confidence? And let the person, tell me how they feel about themselves. And it's interesting because in my experience, there's kind of like 2 people, right? There's the people that tell you, my confidence is shit. They'll tell you from the beginning. And it's fantastic, and you can kind of start working on tactics. But ironically, there's some people that'll tell you, my confidence is great.
Put them on stage, you'll see how good it is.
And it doesn't take long before they should reveal their true selves. So I think, frankly, my opinion through kind of like as an evolving leader, as an emerging leader, is everyone struggles with confidence.
Oh, yes.
Everyone is filled with self-doubt. The difference is there's some people that are willing to put one foot in front of the other and try shit and do shit and fail, and that are okay with that, even if they're scared. And then there's some people that are so terrified and paralyzed by fear,
they won't get in the
failure,
ring,
that they won't. And so that's what the theme is. But I'm also really big on like speaking about kindness and leadership and the value of kindness. And I think that gets like misrepresented a lot. But I talk about kindness, I talk about like authenticity and those kinds of things.
Yeah, like you were mentioning a strategy for kindness, like bold kindness in the workplace.
Say.
Yeah, well, my problem is this. I see a lot, like social media or whatever, and I see people working, and I say, the fuck? How is this person this confident or this, like, got the balls to do this or say this online? I'm like, wow, like, I wish I had his confidence. You know what I mean? Like, some people will do stuff online, you're like, I would never post that. I would never be able to. Then I'm like thinking, like, not as in like I'm jealous of that, like, not that I'm
not out of envy,
not
like,
of
just
envy,
out
not
of
like
surprise,
not out of like I hate the guy for it. Almost like I'm applauding the person for doing something that I would never have the guts to do or say, or it's just like I would work so much harder to get to where they are. I would like try to make it like so much better. And I'm like, wait a second, this person is doing it and I'm not. Example, right? This person did it, I didn't. So you think like the issue is not that he's bad at it and I'm good at it. The issue is he's doing it and I'm not. That's the way they have the confidence to do it and I don't. That's how it starts. And once you light up that flame for somebody, you show them videos of garbage online over and over, you light up a flame in them and then the confidence will come out. It's there's like a power of the masses. You just look at everyone doing something, I could do it, whatever, but
it's interesting because like building on social media is interesting in the sense insofar as you're building in public. So
anybody in the world can see it.
Exactly. And they see you at the beginning, right? Whereas like you're an expert. Like, I think you're like one of the most well-known brokers in the city, right? Mm-hmm. You have a huge reputation. But I guarantee you, the first mortgage file that you worked on probably wasn't the greatest. Mm-hmm. Your customer service was decent, but today, if you look at like Danny's version today versus Danny 15 years ago, completely different person.
It's all reps.
You evolved as a person. You got better. You learned new skills. You built an immense network that you benefited from, and you took some of the best approaches that you saw, and you kind of created your own. And so today, if you were to be put in front of the person you did the first file for, they'd be like, "Who the fuck? Whoa, this guy's like amazing, right?" Yeah. And then you'd be like, "No, remember I did your file." Like, what? That's you, yeah. Right? So, like, I think you have to also recognize that like people evolve, and if you never take that first step, you'll never get to year 15 where you're amazing. You'll always be at like your first file, right? So it's the same thing. And when you're building online, it's tough because you're always the man in the arena, right? Like, that famous speech, like, you're the man in the arena, right? You're building in public, people can shit on you, people can comment, and people can say things. So it's a little tougher. But what I would say is, you have to just put one foot in front of the other, and you have to be okay with being imperfect. I think sometimes we expect perfection out of everything that we fucking do. Mm-hmm. We don't have to, man. We can be okay with like, look, I'm going to start, it's going to be a little mediocre, I'll get better, and by year 15, I'll be fucking great.
Oh, yes. It's I was saying with I have a good friend of mine, he's kind of like a mentor, and same thing, like he would be great publicly, but won't do it, right? In business, he's really good, he's really sharp, really smart, all calculated, never messes up. Personal life, always taking care of his personal life, physically, whatever. But too afraid to look like some people online or some people that what they do wrong, right? I kind of told him, I said, sometimes, like, the boxer, so you go like Floyd Mayweather. At one point, he got in the ring and punched like anybody punched, or like a brawler, like a backyard brawler. Now he's the fastest, most like perfect puncher. But you have to start somewhere. You got to just get in the ring. Mm-hmm. And you got to get in the ring. And it's all reps. Get in the ring, And when you get in the ring, you get better.
I love that.
And in businesses like that too, obviously there's education. There's a little bit of like people say luck, sure, but there's a little bit of preparing to be ready when luck comes, you know, like there's like prepping. So there's education you can do to get yourself better in certain things. Like there's books you can read, there's videos you can watch, you could just like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you can learn moves or whatever, you can get better, white belt to like get the black. There's like stripes. And I think in business as well as social media, there's reps and there's just doing it. Because everyone's gonna be shy the first time they go into the ring. Like I bet you Floyd Mayweather, first time he got into the ring, he didn't feel comfortable, even though he's like, I think, second or third generation boxer. But still, there was one day when he got in the ring when he was a kid, he didn't feel good. Terrified. And I think that's how it is with everything, social media included. But if you work on getting better and better every time in business or in leadership, like right now we're seeing Alain first year in leadership or second year in leadership, like sharing, sharing your thoughts, but you've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
But if you go ahead and you do 10, 15 years from now, you did it every day, you'll be rewarded.
Yeah, there's like a saying that's like, I think it's actually Bill Gates that said, I forget who, but it's I forget who it's attributed to, but it's essentially we tend to overestimate how much we can accomplish in a short period of time, but we severely underestimate how much we can do in a long period of time.
Oh, yes.
And so, like LinkedIn, for example, like sharing my ideas. For your mentor who's like worried about putting themselves out there, I've been like writing my ideas since like I wasn't LinkedIn. I was just like, I have these like pretty radical ideas. If you look at my content, it's a little provocative and sometimes it's a lot of like 4-letter words. I swear a lot. I give a very candid and honest perspective on leadership. I've always had these thoughts. In 2020, I sat down and I was like, I'm going to start writing a blog.
Yeah.
Guess what happened in 2020? I didn't write my blog. Guess what happened in 2021? I didn't write my blog. In 2022, didn't write my blog. In 2023, I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to go on LinkedIn.
Took it seriously.
And I'm going to because I don't have to like create a website. I'm just going to put content out every day. I'm going to put one little piece of content out and see where it takes me. When I started, I had 243 connections. Most of my connections were coworkers from the company I worked for or family and friends. I just posted every day. I showed up every day. And I understood that it was about engaging as well, right? So like there was more focus on engaging than posting. But dude, I was terrified. It took me 3 years to have the balls to put something out there. And when I finally did, dude, I was refreshing the content every couple of seconds to see did I get any likes. And man, my first 4 or 5 months, shit. Sometimes I would get literally 1 like, 0 likes. 2 likes, but I went from 243 connections to 9,000 followers in a year. I've had content that's gone viral, that's been reposted by like really big accounts. I've had content that has gotten like 15,000 likes. I've been like invited to different podcasts. I would have never thought that in a year this much could have happened. And it only happened because I started day one. I put myself out there. I was filled with self-doubt. And frankly, I'm still filled with self-doubt. I put shit now. I'm like, this is what happens on social media too. You're like, you write something and you're like, this is it. This one is the fucking greatest piece of content ever. Even if a CEO of a fucking 500
Bill Gates watches,
if he sees this, he's gonna fucking hire me. I put it out there. Dude, it gets the least traction possible. And then sometimes my most basic and simplest ideas I put out there and they start to do well. So yeah, man, it's really about putting yourself out there. That self-doubt will never go away. It'll just lessen.
You can be shy. One day you're gonna do something with like big production, guests, you know, like one day you're gonna try something new, like let's say get a big production going, have your guests going, you're spending money and time and effort. It's like almost like a wedding you're preparing for. Like one day you'll have that type of event, and then you're like, oh, this is you'll get nervous again. Even pros will get nervous that day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like even like Bet David, he would get shy. He would get like a little nervous. You can tell he gets nervous when it's the big days. Oh, the podcast he does every day, he's not nervous. But the ones that you can tell when he's doing the big events, you can tell like, oh, he's nervous. Like he's worried that like this one's not as big or whatever, right? even the bigger guys do get nervous when they go try something even bigger.
500%.
Like that. So it always happens.
Especially in the public eye. And like I remember like learning this like 15 years ago. It's like the biggest fear in North America is actually public speaking. It's not like sharks or like
snakes or spiders.
It's public speaking. Like when you're building a public, that's what you're doing constantly, right? You're putting your thoughts, your ideas out there for people to judge. Yeah, even like big creators, big influencers, big thought leaders. One of my favorites, Simon Sinek, he wrote like Start With Why and stuff.
Oh, yeah. I've heard his audiobook.
He's brilliant.
Is that the Blue Ocean one?
He talks about leaders eat last. Start With Why. He's got a few books.
Start With Why. That's the one I think I saw.
He's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
But that guy, like, even talked about, like, one time he was, like, on a big stage and he was terrified. And
see, even he would get terrified. And he's probably top 5 most biggest public speakers out there. He's the one that, like, he did TED Talk, right? He's the
multiple times.
Yeah. He's really good. He's
Start With Why.
Start With Why. That's the one I think I listened to. And that's the one that he was talking about, I think, Apple, right? How, like, Apple, what's its why? And, like, I think that's what it was. That was a good book. Yeah. He's good. He's good. And and that was his mission. So I think I'm going based off memory. His mission was to kind of create more people like you who go and become more leaders out there. Isn't that his whole thing? He's, like, trying to create more leaders?
He's like, great leaders create more leaders.
Yeah. You have to empower everyone.
You really do, man.
Yeah, you have to empower everyone. Yeah, that's a good one. I was gonna say, you know why I believe that your followers went from 200 to 9,000? It's because your content it resonates with people. So you're probably most likely, for you to grow that fast, like you said, in 1 year, there's probably a lot of introverts out there. Introverts or like quiet leaders just waiting, and then you go and you have this, and they're like, wow, the whole time there's other people out there. Did you even know that there's other people out there on social media doing what you're doing until you started? No, so people are starting to see your stuff. 9,000 people now are aware that there's someone like you they could always reach out to. They might not do it today, they might not, maybe there's other companies out there that will send their introvert people to say, hey, like, look, like, I need you to be a leader, but like, check out this guy online, like, type of thing.
Man, it's very encouraging, man. It's very encouraging. What I'll tell you is like, plenty of people have reached out in comments or DMs and even sent me emails and stuff. And my message is not even like it's provocative, and I write a little boldly, and like I said, I swear a lot, or like I try and show up as authentically as possible. But I'm saying two things. Introverts belong and they can be amazing leaders, and I'm saying you need to be kind in business. And when I'm saying kind, I'm not saying like you need to be like a welcome mat or a pushover. No. What I'm saying is like, just be decent to people. Be decent to people, it's going to pay off. That's all I'm saying. I'm not even saying anything novel. It's not a new idea. I'm not different. Like, I'm not perfect.
It goes a long way.
All I'm saying is like, be kind. If you think about it this way, if right now, you go to a restaurant, you walk into a restaurant, you go to like the fanciest fucking restaurant in Ottawa.
5-star steakhouse, whatever.
5-star steakhouse. And you walk in. Let's take your perspective as the client or the customer.
Yeah, so I walk in.
You walk in, the host walks you to your table, they sit you down, you had your reservations, fantastic. You got a fantastic table. You're celebrating maybe something big with your wife. Mm-hmm. You're still celebrating a big event with your wife, or maybe
anniversary, birthday, whatever.
Whatever it is. You're there, you're like, I want this to be the most amazing night of the year with my wife. The waiter or waitress comes out and you're rude to them. You look down on them, you're sharp, you look at the items, you don't even make eye contact, you look at the items on the menu.
You judge her weight or whatever, yeah.
You're just rude to that waiter.
There's people like that in this world, yeah.
You're an asshole to them. Mm-hmm. What do you think that fucking waitress is going to do or waiter is going to do? They're not going to give you great service.
No, right away.
Right there, they write you off. Mm-hmm. Conversely, let's say you come in and you're perfect. But now let's pretend you're the waiter or the waitress. And you've got this amazing couple and they're fucking really nice. And they got a table and they're celebrating a big event. And you as the waiter or waitress, you decide to be an asshole to them. Do you think your tip is going to be great? Do you think they're going to be nice to you?
No.
Do you think they might like make a complaint if you're an asshole to them? Chances are, yes. Chances are they'll have a bad experience. They'll never come back, right? So to me, that's business.
If I was the owner of that business, I would let her go.
500%.
Yeah. I'd say you got to go. You can't be rude. Like first chance, like maybe you had a bad day, but it's like having tellers be rude when people walk in. No, you can't be tellers. Like obviously you're in a community, you're in a
Customer service
role. Like, like whatever it is.
But to me, it goes both ways.
Of course. No, it goes both ways. Yeah.
But that to me is an illustration of business. That's business. All of your relationships, you decide. You could be the customer or you could be the waiter or the waitress. Whether you're dealing with like your colleagues, whether you're dealing with somebody that reports to you, whether you're dealing with a customer yourself, a prospect like a prospect or a lead, it doesn't matter. Whether you decide to be the waiter or the waitress, you just can't be an asshole. That's all I'm saying. Like, think about the impact of kindness. Like, have you ever been into, this has happened to me recently, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like in a weird mood, going through the drive-thru, and I order my coffee and my donut.
Of course, yeah.
Honey cruller, by the way. I order my shit. I get to the window. I pull out my wallet, and I go to pay. No, the person in front of you paid for you.
Pay it forward. So that's yeah.
Guess what happens when that happened to me? I was in a shitty mood. I got to the window. I was like, now I got to pay for the person behind me. I got to pay it forward. And I'll tell you what, it changed my mood immediately. And I think about like the impact of kindness. That's a lame example, but that's the impact it can have in business. If you're kind to the people on your team, the people that you work with, clients, whoever you interact with, if you operate in a kind way, again, it's not a nice way. It's not like a Mr. Nice Guy. That's not what I'm proposing here. All I'm saying is you have to show some empathy. You have to like have common sense. You have to be kind to people, respect that they all have personal lives. That's where these ideas around like not micromanaging people, letting people work from home, all these things come from that place of kindness to go, you know what? If it was me, here's the kind of experience I would like to have as an employee. So that's where a lot of the kindness comes from.
Sometimes it's harder to be kind than it is to be mean. For some people, but I'm going to give some people I think being kind to people is a cheat code in life. When you're kind to people, automatically, in return, just like you bought the guy behind you a cup of coffee or whatever he wanted, because someone was kind to you, people want to be with people who are kind, nice. The sad part people have to watch out from is that people, even if they don't like you, they want to be around you because you're nice. You ever hear that saying like, I don't like him, but he's nice. But they're still friends because he's nice. Or she's still nice. You know what I mean? Like, especially like the way guys talk to sometimes girls when they're in high school, they'll say to the girl, I don't like him, but they just have something bad to say, but he's nice or whatever. She would say the same thing about her friends because she's nice. They're kind of telling you they don't like that person, which is bad that they don't tell them in their face, but they want them around because they're nice. But the cheat code, you have to filter out the people using you or not using you in a different way, but the niceness automatically, or kindness, automatically gets people attracted to you. Just like you can give that person kindness, you'll get kindness back.
500%.
Just like the person gave you coffee, just say coffee, and you had to give back. Even though that person's gone, you would have gave them back something, like whatever it is. I don't know if that person was in front of you, but your way of giving back was giving it to the person behind you on drive-thru. Humans are all built that way.
500%.
If we're out and as a caveman and came back, I'm like, hey, like we just got like a saber-toothed tiger, and I came and I just tossed you a leg, and you're like, oh man, thanks so much, and my leg's broken, I couldn't come with you today.
The next time I hunt a saber-toothed tiger, I'll give you a leg.
Yeah, you'll give me a leg.
That's kind of wild. That's wild meat. But
that's wild meat. But you know what I mean? Like I came back with
dude, let's conceptualize it. Like it doesn't even have let's conceptualize it. So for me, when I think of kindness, like you can still have like a really strong spine. You can still like have boundaries, right? So you're not like a nice person where everyone walks over you. You understand that the world is a marketplace of goodwill. The entire world is built on a handshake. And even if like you're a mortgage broker, if you right now get a client and they have a very difficult file, it's really hard to qualify them, and they've gone through hell through different brokers, different lenders. They can't get anything, and they come to you, and you tell them very honestly, listen, you've got a very difficult file, but I think I can make this one work for you. Here's how we're going to make it work. And you make it work for them. What do you think is going to happen in return? They're going to come back. They might be a repeat client the next time they need a file worked on.
Referrals.
They're going to refer you. They're going to do all these things. So it's actually strategically, it's in your advantage to be kind to people and to look out for them. And when I'm saying kind, it's not like you need to do something over and above what you typically do. It's just that you need to be approachable. You need to be easy to work with. You can't be an asshole and yell at people. Like it's funny. It's like I'm saying this, but it's because in leadership, the bar is fucking low, man.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I need to tell people, like, yelling at people is not right, and being an asshole to clients is not right. But you'd be surprised. I think as a society, we tend to elevate the wrong people in leadership. But that's another conversation.
How are you liking it so far?
It's fucking great, man.
It's good, eh? Would you come back?
5,000,000%.
That's good.
I was like a little nervous at the beginning, but I realized like it's just a conversation.
It's just a conversation. I noticed that with a lot of the guests, they're like a little bit nervous in the beginning, so that's why I like right away gotta shoot some stuff like thanks so much for coming, and then I'm like they usually open up. But the next time you come, it's not gonna happen. You're not gonna be nervous. But everything, like you said, we said it earlier, like being nervous is like this is, yeah. We'll edit out the nervous part, but yeah, it's good that I'm happy you came back. Like I'm happy you want to come back. The thing is with kindness, you're absolutely right. What would be like something a tip you would tell people, like not to be a doormat? Like, because we'll end with that, but like what's the like one thing that stops someone who's kind? You're saying you don't have to be doormat, but is there something they can say right away or do right away not to become a doormat? Because because the last thing you want is a leader to get walked over on and their whole staff is just like not productive, so you kind of want like, what would be the thing you would give the nice guy?
Tip? I don't know if there's one single tip. So maybe I'll put it this way. I think, you need to have like firm boundaries and you need to recognize what those are. And it depends on who you are, the industry you work in, and so on and so forth. But like use some critical thinking. I think as a leader, you need to be like a critical thinker and think of the times where you're potentially being exploited, where people are trying to take advantage of you. Don't do it to the point where you're paranoid and you think everyone is trying to exploit you. Yeah, those are the kinds of things you have to have in mind when it comes to things. But I'll tell you what, the vast majority of time, people, even if it seems they're trying to exploit you, they will be willing to give something in return for that. Like, if you think about like us playing Catan the other day, right? Like, you make some trades that will benefit you, but you also know, you recognize you have to make some concessions. Of course. So like, all I'm saying is like, as a leader, and even if you're not a leader and you're an aspiring leader, you're an individual contributor, understand that saying yes more often than you say no will pay off for sure.
Like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but somebody told me in the past, leaders, even though you're available, let's say you're available all the time, I'm not saying that's what you are, but try to break it down where you're only available certain times. Because when you're available all the time, it makes people think that you're not doing anything, or like, the more busy you are, the less people like more respect your time. So if you have like blocks of time, like you can we'll book your time Wednesday afternoon at 3 versus them calling you anytime. Then when they have you at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday, they respect your time more. So they're like getting the stuff out of the way. So and vice versa, they feel like it's more quality. So I have Alain for that hour, it's quality, full, versus them calling anytime just to like bug you for anything. Like, that makes sense. Like 500%. Like not making yourself impossible to reach, but making people respect your time when you do give it. But being kind always, having your door open, but not like actually having your door open. People can walk in. But another thing that's might be a misconception is that a lot of people say, this is an HR thing, but a lot of people say with HRs, don't tell them your personal life, because it can be used against you, or don't tell your leader your personal life, it can be used against you. Why is that something now, like, people are saying? Have you heard of that thing?
I think
I don't have that, like, that problem, but I just want to know, like, is that something like that
people can choose what they share with their leaders and vice versa? I think you would potentially be like, and it depends on the leader you're working with and who you're working with, but you would be robbing yourself the opportunity of being human. Like, everyone's human, everyone deals with some bullshit, everyone's got like stuff that they're dealing with. And if you hide that, your leader can't be as effective as they need to be, and vice versa. As a leader, you can. If people aren't comfortable sharing with you, you can't be effective in supporting them, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're working with someone and they have like a dying grandmother, well, if you don't know about it, how are you going to support them? Whereas if you know. And it's not about oversharing. Like, I don't believe in oversharing. I think there's some things that are like private. Generally speaking, it's good to have like a pretty honest and open conversation. But it is a two-way street. It can't just be that person shares with you and you don't share. Like, it's got to be a pretty open kind of situation.
Well, Alain, I want to say thank you so much for coming. And Alain mentioned that he's happy to come back, so that's good. That's awesome. And I want to let everyone. I want to give a plug. Like can you tell everyone your social media and how to find you?
Yeah. So firstly, thanks for having me. I can be found on so many platforms, but I mostly spend my time putting short content on LinkedIn. I also write long form content on Medium. So I write articles about leadership, Medium. And finally, if you want to look me up, you can look me up at Alain Hyppolite.me, ALAINHYPPOLITE.me. And you can sign up for my newsletter. I write something every Saturday, and just actionable, tangible leadership tips that you can take and apply in your day-to-day.
Awesome. So proud of you. That's awesome.
Thanks, man.
Good job.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.